Come on in. We have a great old black and white mystery movie from the 1930s or 1940s here on Hastings Mystery Theater. Our feature film will begin following our movie introduction by our host and mystery master, Randall Schaefer, who shares with our viewers some great background information on the film. Leave us your comments in the comment section and hit the like and subscribe buttons. This helps our channel grow, and then stay with us until the end. You'll be glad you did.
Coming soon to Hastings Mystery Theater. Quiet Please, Murder. It's a 1942 film noir, crime drama. A smooth forger, George Sanders, kills for library first editions, planning to sell copies to a Nazi collector. It stars George Sanders, Gail Patrick and Richard Denning. Don't miss Quiet Please, Murder.
Good evening. Welcome to Hastings Mystery Theater. I'm your host and mystery master, Randall Schaefer. Tonight, the corridors of mystery take us to 1948 for a British national production, Uneasy Terms. This is a British movie, of course, in which private detective Slim Callaghan is summoned to the country estate of a wealthy Colonel Stenhurst, but the colonel is murdered before he can tell Callaghan why he summoned him. Well, Callaghan feels compelled to investigate and finds no shortage of suspects. The colonel's oldest daughter, Viola, seems to have the best motive. Starring as Detective Slim Callaghan is Michael Rennie. He was born in Yorkshire in 1909. He wanted to become an actor for as long as he can remember, but it came late in his life. He worked as a car salesman and then in a factory before getting his break in show business. Well, that break wasn't a very big break. He was simply a stand-in for Robert Young in the Alfred Hitchcock movie Secret Agent. And stand-ins, well, they don't get any screen time and they don't get any lines. He is, however, best remembered as the alien in the classic The Day the Earth Stood Still. Well, that was an American film, and after that he had negligible impact on Hollywood. He returned to England in 1959 and took the lead role in the British TV show The Third Man. He ended his career with guest starring roles on television in Britain. He died in 1971 at age 61. Our female lead is Moira Lister. She was born in Cape Town, South Africa in 1923, and she was working on the London stage at age 18 and had graduated to movies at age 20. She married her first husband in 1946, and later that year he was convicted of murdering 2 women and hanged. Well, she had better luck with her second husband. He owned a vineyard, and she was happily married to him for 31 years until his death. She continued working in movies and television until retiring in 2003. She died in 2004 at age 84. Let's return to 1948. Enjoy Michael Rennie and Moira Lister in Uneasy Terms.
Lay off, Windy, can't you? You're so monotonous.
Oh, Weffie.
Well, let's see it.
Well, it came off. He pinched him.
Lucky for us.
Well, how about you and me having a bit of a celebration tonight, eh? Okay. Oh, it came off. They pinched Maxie.
Yes, I know, Wendy.
Oh, well, maybe they won't be so sore now. Effie, you look good enough to eat.
You mean to give you indigestion?
Oh, come on. Give us a tumble, babe. Let's catch a movie.
Anytime I go anywhere with you when it's dark, now I'll carry a storm lamp.
Ah, Mr. Gringo, say, am I glad to see you. How's Scotland Yard?
Right on its toes.
That's what I was afraid of.
Where's Mr. Callaghan?
I'll ask if he can see you.
Don't worry, he'll see me.
Brother, will he be glad to see you? Will he? Hell.
Have a drink, Gringo.
No, thanks.
Sit down, anyway. What's on your mind?
You are. The assistant commissioner sent for me this morning about the Vendane case and your part in it.
Now, what did he say?
Oh, he said the case shows all the usual signs of the Callaghan technique. Bribery of witnesses.
No.
Suppression of information. Deliberate obstruction of the police. Well, now, don't look so surprised.
I'm more hurt than surprised. What's he going to do about it?
Well, he was going to do something pretty serious, but you were lucky. You got a break.
No.
Yes. We arrested Sardonian last night trying to get onto the Channel packet. We got him because somebody sent us an anonymous letter.
Now, what has Sardonian or anonymous letters got to do with me, Gringo?
Simply that the anonymous letter was written on that typewriter outside. That's all. You know, Slim, we've had letters from this office before.
Effie, order a new typewriter in the morning.
You understand, Slim? If I were you, I'd take things easy for a bit. You're too fond of skating on thin ice. One of these days, it's going to crack.
And then we shall get our feet wet, shan't we?
I mean it, Slim.
Gringo, I think the English police are wonderful.
It's all right. You're still in business.
Good night, Mr. Gringo.
Drop in any time you happen to be coming around, pal.
Callaghan Investigations, yes. Who is it, please? Oh, Miss Vendane.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he's here. No, he's not here, Miss Vendane. Yes, I'll give him a message. Very well. I'll let you know, Miss Vendane. I hope.
Well, what did she want?
She wanted you to go down for the weekend. She said the country was just too beautiful.
Effie, how would you like to send her a wire? Tell her I'll be down for dinner tomorrow night. And then you better run along and get some beauty sleep. Wendy, if anything important turns up, I'll be at the Nightlight Club later.
Okay, so long, Chief. Say, Effie, why don't you give me a tumble? What's the matter with the movies tonight? I feel kind of poetic about you.
And that's what I'm afraid of.
Well, you don't have to be afraid of me.
No?
No, of course not.
You tell me why.
Look, I know a movie house where they keep the lights halfway up all through. And no strangleholds.
Listen, you third-class Casanova. Hello? It's that blonde.
Oh, good. Hello, darling.
This is Colonel Stenhurst speaking.
Colonel who?
Stenhurst.
Colonel Stenhurst?
Yes, Colonel Stenhurst. I want to speak to Mr. Callaghan very urgently.
Yeah. Hey, look, you'll have to speak up a bit, Colonel. I can hardly hear you. Where are you talking from?
Dark, spinny hangover.
Oh, wait a minute. Dark, spinny, hangover. Did you say hangover?
Yes.
Huh, that's what I thought you said.
Isn't he there?
No, Mr. Callahan ain't in. He's no night worker, you know. Well, not much.
What I have to talk to him about is most important.
Well, tell me what it's all about, anyway. What's the trouble?
I want my stepdaughters watched.
Your stepdaughters?
I've received an anonymous letter.
An anonymous letter?
It's most distressing.
Well, look, if it's all that urgent, you'll find them later on at the Night Light Club.
Night light?
Yeah, Night Light. It's Mayfair 44624.
I wouldn't trouble him if the matter wasn't most urgent.
Yeah, oh, yes, I know. Yeah, it's always urgent, Colonel. Yes.
Very well. I'll ring him at that number.
Okay, do that little thing. So long.
Good evening, Mr. Callaghan.
Not very busy, are you?
I know it's a bit early yet.
Give me the usual, Patrick.
Yes, Mr. Callaghan. There's been a personal call coming through for you. I've been trying to get you all evening. I told them you'd be in later, so they said they'd try again.
Thank you, Patrick.
Gin and tonic, please, Patrick.
Yes, miss. That's probably your call now, Mr. Callaghan.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, it is your call, sir. The girl is putting it through to the box.
Thank you, Patrick.
Radium type 2. You're through, caller. Press button A.
Mardine Club? Mr. Mason, I'll put you through to the restaurant. You're through?
Yeah? Fixed him good, huh? Uh-huh. Good girl.
It's okay, Mr. Donnelly. You want to get no call? Excellent, excellent. Nothing too drastic, I hope? No, sir. All nice and clean. Excellent, excellent.
What's the matter, Mr. Callaghan? Have you been ill?
Have I? Patrick, where did you make that whiskey? In the bathtub? It knocked me out.
What?
Believe it or not, I passed out in the telephone box.
It can't be the whiskey, Mr. Callaghan. A dozen people have had a drink out of that bottle, and you know the stuff here is always good.
Well, it didn't do me any good.
You better have some brandy.
Patrick?
Yes?
That girl, the one with the ankles and the perfume, who would she be?
Well, this year she calls herself Miss Lavalier. Mr. Callaghan, you don't think
Never mind what I think. Give me her address, will you, Patrick?
Yes, Mr. Callaghan.
Good morning, Wilkie. Good afternoon, Mr. Callaghan.
Pack my bag, will you, Wilkie?
Very good, sir.
Hello, Windy. Hey, Chief, what do you know? Not much. Windy, get the car on, will you?
You going down to see the Colonel?
What colonel?
Well, the guy called up last night. I left a message on your desk. He said he was going to call you at the nightclub. Didn't get through?
I never got the call. I got you.
Oh, he seemed pretty steamed up about something. Said it was very urgent. Aren't you going to go down and see him?
No, I'm going to take a couple of days off.
All right, I'll get your car then.
Allardyce to see you, Mr. Callaghan.
No, I don't know a Miss Allardyce, and I don't want to see her.
But Mr. Callaghan, she's your type. She seems aristocratic, rather bad-tempered, and very lovely.
What's she wearing, Effie?
Her shoes are handmade. Her stockings are silk, real silk. She's wearing a mink coat over a pink wool dress, and just one brooch, diamonds, worth a lot of money.
Sounds too good to be true. Tell her to write for an appointment, Effie.
I think you ought to see her, Mr. Callaghan. She's got something on her mind. I don't think she likes you awfully. And she looks well-bred enough to be dangerous.
Does she? Tell her I'll be right down, Effie.
Mr. Callaghan will see you in a moment. Do come in.
Thank you. Won't you sit down? Cigarette?
No, thank you.
Mr. Callaghan, this is Miss Viola Allardyce.
I'm sorry to trouble you, Mr. Callaghan.
Oh, so there's some trouble.
No, Mr. Callaghan. I came here to make a very simple request. Last night, my stepfather, Colonel Stenhurst, phoned you. He's one of the trustees under my mother's will.
Colonel Stenhurst, Dark Spinney Hangover.
He lives there with us, my aunt and sisters. The property belongs to me, Mr. Callaghan. I don't know what he told you or asked you to do, but I must insist on one thing. That you do not undertake any business for him to which I object.
Aren't you getting a little mixed? You don't know what he wanted me to do, but whatever it was, I'm not to do it. You sound rather like the late Adolf Hitler. He used to talk like that. Look where it got him.
Are you trying to be rude, Mr. Callaghan?
I never tried to be, Miss Allardyce. I'm merely seeking information.
Meaning just what?
It seems obvious to me that some unpleasantness has developed between you and your stepfather. Don't you think it would be simpler, Miss Allardyce, if you were to tell me about it?
No, Mr. Callaghan.
Of course, if you're afraid.
Afraid?
You knew he wanted to see me, so you had to do something about it. You had to see me before he did. You know, I'm beginning to be rather intrigued by Colonel Stenhurst. So intrigued that I'm inclined to find out what he did want.
I can save you the trouble, Mr. Callaghan. It seems that my stepfather intended to employ you to watch me.
A most fascinating assignment. But you didn't like it, Miss Allardyce.
Mr. Callaghan, I don't propose to be spied on. I will not have private detectives at Dark Spinney, do you understand? If you attempt to carry out my stepfather's instructions, I'll put the matter in the hands of the police.
I think that ought to be rather funny.
Why?
Can't you visualize it? Callaghan trailing the beautiful Miss Allardyce over hill and dale, and following him, the grim Sussex police on a bicycle. People might be rather amused, don't you think?
I've said all I intended to say, Mr. Callaghan. I hope you'll be warned.
I'm scared stiff. It was good of you to come and warn me.
Goodbye, Mr. Callaghan.
Au revoir, Miss Allardyce. I'll be seeing you.
Oh, brother, what a looker. Hey, who's the bad-tempered dame outside? Is she registered with us?
You never can tell, Windy.
Oh, it's one of those, eh? Your car's outside.
Thanks. Effie, what's the hotel at Alfriston?
The Two Friars. It's the nearest inn to Hangover.
Effie, about Miss Van Dane. Send her a wire, will you? The usual thing, important business, you know. Has Colonel Stenhurst been through today?
No, Mr. Callaghan. When I saw the message on her desk this morning, I tried to get through, but there was a fault on the line.
First thing in the morning, go to the probate registry and search for Mrs. Stenhurst's will. It's an uncommon name, so it should be easy. Take a copy of the will and give it to Nichols. Windy, when you get the copy, hire a car, contact me at the Two Friars, Alfriston, tomorrow afternoon, understand?
Okay, fine. Why, you gonna start something?
Maybe. Windy, believe it or not, last night a lady slipped me a Mickey Finn.
So somebody hopped your drink, eh? That's a hot one. Why?
I don't know, but I'm beginning to get an idea. I think I'll go and see the lady. Wilkie, be good.
I'll try, Mr. Callaghan, and you be careful.
Careful. Him?
Goes on near a fire or something?
I wouldn't know. Remember me?
Should I?
Perfume never smells the same the morning after, does it? I want to talk to you.
Well, I don't want to talk to you.
You will.
What do you want?
Last night at the nightlife club, you sat next to me. You slipped something in my drink so that I wouldn't take a telephone call. Why?
I don't know what you're talking about. What kind of a girl do you take me for?
What kind of a girl do you want me to take you for?
You're crazy, mister.
The name's Callaghan. You know it, and so do the police. They might know you, too, under another name that doesn't smell as sweet. Shall we, call them and find out?
You win. I'm a mug. Always getting in bed.
Who put you up to this?
A man I know called Mason. He rang me through.
What did you get out of it?
Up to now, a headache. Look, I had to do it. It was one of those things.
You mean he's got something on you? Where is this Mason?
He's head waiter at the Mardine Club near Rodine.
Sussex?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Look, have a heart. Keep me out of this.
Why worry? It'll only give you another wrinkle.
Good evening, sir.
My name's Callaghan of Callaghan Investigations. Colonel Stenhurst wanted to see me.
I'm afraid he's not in at the moment, sir. He's gone for a walk in the grounds. Will you wait?
No, I'll ring through or call back later.
Very good, sir. Mr. Callaghan, madam.
I'll speak to him, please.
Will you come in, sir?
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Callaghan.
Good evening.
I'm Honoria Wimmering. Colonel Stenhurst is my brother-in-law.
We tried to phone him from my office today and we couldn't get through.
No, the telephone's only just been repaired. The men said the wires were broken. May I have a few words with you?
Certainly.
Perhaps you'd come into the library. Mr. Callaghan, I'm glad to have this chance of seeing you before you see my brother-in-law, because I think it's only fair to tell you that he is rather eccentric and inclined to exaggerate.
I see.
I don't know exactly what he wants to see you about, but if I were you, I shouldn't take it too seriously.
You're trying to tell me, Miss Wimmering, that this is all a storm in a teacup.
Exactly. A storm in a teacup. The Colonel is so apt to make mountains out of molehills.
For instance?
My nieces. He seems to forget that times change. In fact, he doesn't approve of the way they're behaving.
I see. Well, I promise not to take him too seriously, Miss Wimmering.
Thank you, Mr. Callaghan.
I'll come back later this evening. I'm quite near here. I'm staying the night at Alfriston.
Can my chauffeur drive you back?
Thank you, no. I drove myself over. My car's in the road.
Well, then this is your quickest way out. Over the flower garden, follow the little path, and you'll come to a green gate in the wall.
Thank you, Miss Wimmering.
Good night,
Goodbye.
Mr. Callaghan.
Mr. Callaghan! Mr. Callaghan!
What is it, Salland?
The Colonel, sir. He's dead.
Dead?
Yes, sir. He's been shot. I just found him in there.
Now, take it easy, Salland. I'll handle this. Now, I'll tell you what to do. Go back to the house and tell Miss Wimmering, and then phone the police. And you'd better get yourself a drink first and pull yourself together.
I'm all right, sir.
Take your time, Salland.
I warned you not to come here, Mr. Callaghan. Why didn't you take my advice?
I never take people's advice, Miss Allardyce. I prefer to make my own mistakes.
Then make them somewhere else, not here. Otherwise, I shall have you thrown out.
But I might not want to be thrown out.
I don't like you, Mr. Callaghan. And I won't have you snooping about my house and grounds. Is that clear?
Perfectly. But before I go, I'd like to tell you something. Somebody didn't want the Colonel to tell me about an anonymous letter he'd received. That somebody fixed it so that he couldn't. Then this morning you called at my office and said that unless I kept away from Dark Spinney, you'd go to the police. You won't go to the police, Miss Allardyce. Because very soon you're going to hear something extremely unpleasant. And then you'll come to me. Because you'll have to. Good night.
Colin, what's happened?
It's no good, my dear. No good at all. Far from taking less, he wants more.
Colin, I can't go on like this. I'm going to tell Aunt Honoria everything.
Don't be such a damn fool.
My dears, you must prepare yourselves for a terrible shock. Your stepfather is dead.
You have a waiter here called Charles Mason. I'd like to see him.
Waiter, sir? Mr. Mason is our maitre d'hotel.
I'd like to see him just the same.
Very good, sir.
If it isn't Tony.
You're making a mistake, sir. My name's not Tony. I'm Charles Mason, the maitre d'hotel.
You don't say. Well, you may be Charles Mason in here, but to me, you're Tony Empley. What a pleasant surprise. My name's Callaghan, remember?
Would you care to step this way, sir?
Why did you do it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No. Or maybe I can jog your memory. You remember a girl called Martin who disappeared about 9 months ago? Remember, Tony? Well, I know where she went and I know who sent her there. And you know I can get you 5 years for it. Now talk.
All right. All right, but it's no good pushing me around. Why don't you go and talk to Mr. Donnelly?
Who's Mr. Donnelly?
The boss. He runs this joint.
So he fixed it.
That's all right. You go and see him.
Maybe I will. And now I'll tell you what you're going to do, Tony. You're going to get out of here, and you're going to get out now.
Oh, will like hell.
Like hell you will. Because if you're here in the morning, I'm going to take you apart.
Vous aviez raison. Moi, j'ai triché avec ces cartes. Très adroitement d'ailleurs, regardez. Vous voyez ce petit trou?
Ah bien. Ça va.
Je vais là-bas ou pas? Un, deux. Un, deux.
you, Donnelly.
Yes?
I'm Callaghan.
I'm afraid I don't know, Mr. Callaghan.
You will.
Oh. Will I? You're very conceited. And very tall. A drink?
Mm-hmm.
And, what can I do for Mr. Callaghan?
Last night, a woman doped my drink to stop me taking a call from Colonel Stenhurst. Why did you tell her to do it?
This is rather amusing. Why do you think that I should interest myself in your affairs?
Tony Empley.
Tony Empley?
You know him as Mason, your head waiter. I've just seen him and he talked.
I saw him and he talked. Tell Mason to come up.
You won't be seeing Mason anymore. He just left.
Oh? Doesn't he like it here?
I don't know and I don't care. He got out because I told him to get out.
He must have quite a personality.
I get around.
You're still conceited. And taller than ever.
You might be the next one, Donnelly.
You are an extraordinary person. But you're beginning to bore me.
I see Miss Corinne Allardyce is a member here.
Yes, charming girl. Been a member for years. You know her well? Oh, George. Mr. Callaghan insists on leaving.
Keep going.
Jiu-jitsu, it's pretty, isn't it?
Upon my soul, so you really are the most violent man.
Good night.
Tell Rosie to come up.
My name's Callaghan. Mr. Donnelly has just made me a member. Did Miss Corinne Allardyce leave a message for me when she came to the club?
No, sir. She asked for Mr. Donnelly when she came here this evening, but he was at Brighton. She went away without leaving any message.
Thank you.
And then you told your mistress?
Yes, sir.
Well, that's all for now, Mr. Sellins. We'll take a detailed statement from you later.
Thank you, sir.
Has the photographer finished, Matthews?
Yes, he's just left, sir, and the police surgeon's finished too, sir.
Very well. Get the body ready to take away to the mortuary. I'll order the wagon.
Very good, sir.
You know, I don't like the look of this.
Is it like that, sir?
Yes. This looks like a job for Scotland Yard.
You don't think it's suicide, sir?
I don't know what I think. Leave a uniformed man outside the summer house until the body's removed.
Very good, sir.
What is it? There's a Miss Allardyce to see you, sir.
Show her up.
But I am up. I'm Patricia Allardyce, Viola's younger sister.
Sit down, Patricia.
Thank you.
What can I do for you?
Mr. Callaghan, we're in desperate trouble. My stepfather was found shot dead last night.
Yes, I know.
You know?
Salins, the butler, told me. Your stepfather shot himself.
It's worse than that. The police suspect murder.
Oh, do they?
Will you come and help us?
Are you engaging me, Pat?
Yes, Mr. Callaghan.
You know I'm a very expensive detective.
Oh, well, Viola's very rich.
Oh, Viola said she'd throw me out if ever I came to Dark Spinney. All right, Pat, we'll chance it. What's the trouble?
Well, Aunt Honoria thinks that the police may suspect one of us.
Why should she think that?
Because there was some trouble between my sisters and my stepfather.
Did your aunt know that the Colonel received an anonymous letter?
Anonymous letter? No, I'm sure she didn't.
Well, he did.
Do you think that had something to do with his death?
It might have. Pat, you can help me. I believe that letter's somewhere in the house. Do you think you can find it?
I look for it.
You have to be quick. I want it before the police get it.
If it's anywhere in the house, I'll find it. Auntie says, will you meet her in the garden this afternoon at 3 o'clock, by the green gate?
I'll be glad to, Pat.
Goodbye.
Just a minute. There are a couple of things I want to ask you before you go. I've met Viola, but you've got another sister, haven't you, Corinne?
Yes.
What kind of a girl is she?
Oh, she's always causing trouble and being unpleasant. Darkspinny was quite nice when she was away, being a nurse.
Oh, she was a nurse, was she?
Yes, over at the local hospital at Hurstmonceux.
You know, I'd rather like to meet this other sister of yours. Do you think if you told her that I'll be having dinner tonight at the Mardine Club that she'll join me?
Mardine Club? Where's that?
She'll know. Do you think she'll come?
I'm sure she will. You're just her type.
All right, Pat, off you go. Tell Aunt Honoria I'll do everything I can. But don't forget the important thing, the letter.
I'll find it, and thank you.
All right. So the police think somebody's been tampering with the evidence, eh? Now, who could have done that?
I can't begin to think.
And tell me, when Cohen and Viola came in last night, what happened?
When Salem came in to tell me he found the Colonel's body, I was in the dining room with Patricia. I went out immediately to tell the girls. They were both in the hall.
Had they just come in?
They had their coats on.
And how did they take the news of their stepfather's death?
They were both terribly shocked.
Mm-hmm. Did you tell the police about this storm in the teacup? This quarrel between the Colonel and your nieces?
Nope, I didn't.
Why not? I see. This pistol, the one the Colonel was shot with, do you know where it came from?
Yes, it was his. We all knew he had it. He kept it in his room.
Now, Miss Wimmering, in your heart of hearts, you suspect that the Colonel's death is connected in some way with the storm in a teacup, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And you want me to find out all about it?
I want you to find out for me what you were going to find out for the Colonel. I've never employed a detective before. I've not much money. As you know, this house belongs to Viola.
And we can hardly expect her to pay for the pleasure of being watched, especially by me.
I think you're wrong. Viola needs someone she can trust. I believe she's in some desperate trouble.
Do you think you could arrange for her to meet me here?
I'm sure I could.
Tonight?
Yes.
Good. I'll be here at 11 o'clock. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hello, sir. I didn't expect you to answer quickly.
Well, I'm rather interested in this case. Give me the story.
Gervais Stenhurst, ex-Indian Army colonel, 57 years of age, lives over at Darkspinny with his 3 stepdaughters and his sister-in-law. The butler, Sarins, a very old man who's been with the family for years, found the body of the colonel in the summer house. The police surgeon reported that he'd been dead an hour.
How?
Shot.
Suicide?
Well, it had all the appearances of suicide, but now I'm not so sure.
No, why?
There was some discrepancy between our photographs and the description of the body given by the butler.
What did the butler say he did after he found the body?
He said he went back and told Miss Wimmering, then got through to Alfriston, and they sent for us.
He didn't tell anyone else in the meantime? I mean, before he spoke to Miss Wimmering?
Yes, apparently there's a man named Callaghan, Private Dick, who's been down here doing some work for the Colonel. He said he told him.
So Callaghan's mixed up in this, is he?
Why, do you know?
Oh, certainly I do, don't you?
No.
You haven't lived, my friend. Well, what did Callaghan do?
The butler says he went away.
Did you get anything else out of him?
No, he was pretty well shaken up by the whole thing. I thought I'd better leave him for a bit.
I think I'd rather like to see this butler and have a look around the house. Could you lay that on for me?
Certainly, yes. Sergeant?
Have a drink, Wendy.
Oh, hell, every time I take a nip, somebody gives me the hiccups.
You got the will?
Have I? Ooh, what a will.
During my lifetime, I have observed that the possession of a large income may be dangerous to the marital prospects of any woman, inasmuch as an undesirable type of man may be attracted by her money and may propose marriage to her merely in order to share her fortune and lead a life of idleness and selfishness. I therefore direct my trustees to distribute the income of my estate in the following manner. I see. So if then a daughter gets married, she loses the money and it goes to the next daughter. Well, surely that's against public interest.
No, she's got a clause in there about it.
Yeah. So if anyone contests the will, they lose the lot. What do you make of it, Wendy?
Well, I reckon the old girl figured that the colonel married her for her money and she didn't want it to happen to one of the daughters. Women are funny that way.
That's right enough.
But he only got $250 a year. I bet that slayed the old boy. Anything else he wanted, he had to go and see one of the daughters, whichever was the heiress. I bet he just loved that. Uh-oh. Guess who's here?
I don't have to guess. Hello, Gringle.
Good afternoon.
You were taking a holiday?
You've heard of the Police Act, Slim, haven't you?
Of course, the first thing we learned when we left reform school.
Any person withholding information from a police officer...
We know, yes.
I understand Colonel Stenhurst wanted to see you about something, Slim.
So I believe.
What did he want to see you about?
How would I know? He's dead.
You mean he didn't have time to tell you?
That's right.
So now I suppose you're working for the girl.
Could be.
There isn't anything you'd like to tell me, Slim?
Not a thing. Oh, if there was, I'd tell you with pleasure.
Still, if you change your mind, you know I'm around. Oh, I see you have a visitor. May I introduce Miss Patricia Allardyce? Or maybe you know each other already.
What was he doing here?
That's all right. Have you got any news? Oh, that's Wendy Nichols, my assistant.
I found the letter.
Nice work, Pat. How did you get it?
Colin went out this afternoon. I found it in her bedroom.
Listen to this, Wendy. It may interest you to know that in direct opposition to her late mother's will, Miss Viola Allardyce was married at the Kensington Registry Office to Squadron Leader Rupert Ellingham Sharpham, RAF. It will, of course, be obvious to you that her sister Corinne Allardyce has been defrauded out of her inheritance for the last 6 years. A friend of the family. Make a note of this, Wendy. Dropped A, slightly raised R, tail off the G, faint capital B. Pat, you've got to get this letter back where you found it as quickly as possible.
But do you think it's true?
That's what we're going to find out.
Well, goodbye.
Goodbye.
So long. Slim, who are we working for?
I don't know. Maybe we'll have a client before we're through. Wendy, there's a place called the Mardine Club a couple of miles from Brighton. In an office on the first floor, there's a typewriter, so there's pretty certain to be a secretary. And if I know Mr. Donnelly, she ought to be good.
Yeah, so what?
We'll get to work, Wendy. I want something typed on that machine, and I want it quick.
Right. See you later, Chief. If we haven't got a client, what about the petty cash? You know, fixing the typewriter might be expensive.
You keep your mind on the machine.
Doing? What's it look as if I've been doing? Corinne?
Well?
I met Mr. Callaghan this morning.
Really? What's he like?
Very nice. Just your type, I think. If you're interested, he'll be at the Mardine Club tonight at 7 o'clock.
I'm not interested. Hello. You look almost beautiful, darling. But you're tired, aren't you? And worried?
I am worried. I can't understand the attitude the police are taking about Jervis. It's very odd. They don't say in so many words that he was murdered, but they obviously believe it. Who would have wanted to kill him?
Practically anybody. Often felt like killing him myself.
He's gone, that's that.
You're very hard, aren't you, Corin?
So, what if I am? A lot of good did you being soft, didn't it? Take a tip from me, my dear. Stop worrying.
Corin, when you were listening to Jervis speaking on the telephone to Mr. Callaghan's office, what did he say about a letter?
So that damn detective's been talking. I don't really remember what he said. The only thing that interested me was that he apparently intended to have us watched. That was the thing I concentrated on. Not so much for my sake, but for yours, darling.
When he'd finished speaking, why didn't you come and tell me at once? Where did you go, Corin?
I walked around the grounds. Why? Where do you think I went?
I don't know what I think.
You're not considering doing anything really stupid, are you? You sure you're not making a mountain out of a molehill? Listen, Viola, in a few days these police people will get tired. They'll go away. They'll decide Jervis killed himself. Then all you've got to do is to get rid of this stupid private detective who seems to be hanging around on the chance of making something out of our troubles.
I don't know whether you think it's stupid or not, but I'm going to tell Aunt Honoria the truth.
So you've decided to talk to Aunt Honoria? I wouldn't if I were you. I think you'd find that'd be a very bad thing to do. Listen, Viola, at the time you and I understood each other. Not that we haven't understood each other fairly well before. The point is this, if there's been any harm done to anyone, it's been done to me, not you.
Has it? I wonder. You wanted it that way. You always said...
Right, I wanted it that way, and I wanted to go on that way. If you go to Aunt Honoria and tell her, just as a salve to your rather schoolgirl conscience, don't expect me to back you up.
Good heavens, you don't mean to say...
I mean to say that I would tell Aunt Honoria that I knew nothing about it. I would put everything on you. And that'd be a fine how-do-you-do. Don't you see, Viola, if I said I knew nothing about it, you would be in the position of having committed fraud for years. If I said that, who could dispute it?
There are times when I think you're the most horrible person in the world.
Possibly. I don't think I mind very much about your opinion.
Do you really mean what you said? Do you really mean that if I went and told Aunt Honoria, you'd say you knew nothing at all about it?
That's exactly what I do mean.
Corin.
I've been a damn good friend to you, Viola, and I'm going to insist that the position remains as it is. Be advised by me. Let sleeping dogs lie. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to change my dress.
Miss Allardyce?
Oh.
My name is Callaghan.
Oh, Mr. Callaghan. How did you know who I was?
I'd heard that Miss Corinne Allardyce was a very beautiful woman.
Aren't you delightful?
Won't you sit down?
Here? Wouldn't it be nicer if we went outside where it's quieter?
Certainly. What's wrong with the bar?
I'd rather not be seen in this place, if you don't mind. This is all right here, isn't it?
I suppose so. But if you don't like to be seen here, why do you come?
I wanted to talk to you. I've been wanting to meet you ever since I heard you were down here. As you seem to be working for the entire family, I wondered if you wouldn't mind doing something for me.
What's the trouble?
Well, I seem to be in an awfully difficult position. You see, before my stepfather died, someone tried to blackmail him. I want you to find out who it was.
Don't you think you'd better tell me a bit more about it?
Yes, I suppose I had. Let's sit down and I'll tell you all about it from the beginning. You see, my stepfather was rather old-fashioned. He thought Viola and I were just a pair of gadabouts. He didn't like the people we were mixing with, and he threatened to have us watched. Well, as you can imagine, that started trouble. Then he telephoned you.
How do you know?
Well, I'm afraid I did a very naughty thing. I listened in on the extension line. I heard him telling one of your staff that he'd received an anonymous letter. Well, I guessed that letter had something to do with us. So that night I searched his room, and I found it. Mr. Callaghan, when I read that letter, I was so horrified I felt I must do something to gain time to think.
So?
Well, I suppose it was stupid of me, but I cut the telephone wires.
Why?
To prevent him from talking to you.
Is that all you did?
But of course. What else could I have done?
What was in this letter?
Well, before I tell you that, I must tell you that my mother left a very peculiar will. Under it, her daughters only inherited her money as long as they remained unmarried. Now, this letter says that Viola was married. Look, here it is.
I see. So if this is true, Viola's been defrauding you out of your inheritance.
Yes.
And what are you going to do about it?
Nothing. You see, Mr. Callaghan, I love my sister. Money doesn't matter to me. Besides, she gives me more than I need.
What do you want me to do about it?
Mr. Callaghan, my stepfather was the only other person who saw that letter. He's dead now. But the man who wrote it must at all costs be prevented from writing another one. I'm quite satisfied to let things remain as they are. I don't want a scandal. Viola must be protected.
Your attitude is very generous, Corinne. Tell me, have you any idea who the writer of the letter might be?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, there's a man called Donnelly. He owns this club, as a matter of fact. I thought he might have written it.
Why?
Well, he's one of the people my stepfather objected to.
I see. Well, I'll do what I can.
If you find anything out, ring me at Dark Spinney and say it's Vaughan's. It's a shop in Brighton. Here's a little something for your expenses. I'm very glad I met you, Mr. Callaghan. Find out who it was, and you'll see I know how to be very, very generous.
Yeah, I got it. Oh, have I been busy? It was written on the same machine.
So Donnelly wrote the letter.
Yeah.
Corinne guessed it, but she had to make sure.
Hey, what goes on between those two playing at?
Hey, Wendy, do you like this place?
Oh, suits me fine. I dated up the secretary for tomorrow.
Well, you can forget it because you're not staying here. You're going back to London. Now, listen, Wendy. That letter says that Sharpham was a squadron leader. Now, get in that doodlebug of yours, go to RAF headquarters and find out all you can about Sharpham. His flying record, where he came from, everything. Tell Effie to get in touch with the international agency, put them onto it, too. I don't care what it costs, I want it quick.
Oh, for crying out loud. What about my date?
Now, that'll keep. Now, get cranking, Wendy.
Well, what's the hurry?
The hurry's Gringle. This time he means business.
Well, can't I even have a drink before I go?
Sure, Wendy. What's the matter? It's too strong? Good evening, Miss Allardyce. You're expecting me?
Yes, Mr. Callaghan.
I'm glad. What is it you want to tell me?
First of all, I'd like to apologize for my rudeness last night. I was overwrought and worried. I have been for months. But my behavior was inexcusable. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sick of lies and pretense. I can't keep it up any longer. I don't know what to do.
Why don't you sit down and relax and tell me all about it? Maybe I can help you. Let's begin at the beginning. This letter that all the fuss was about, do you know what was in it?
Yes, but that's not the beginning. I'll try to tell you. My mother's second marriage was not a happy one. She knew that my stepfather had married her for her money, and in order to protect us from being in a similar position, she made a will that disinherited any of us who married. We were very strictly brought up. None of us were ever allowed to meet men. Anyway, I never did. Then the war started, and I got a job, and my life became very different to the rather sheltered one I'd lived here. I'd been in London about a month when I met a very charming and fascinating man, and I married him.
And then you found out he wasn't so charming.
I never had the chance to find out. You see, he went overseas immediately after we were married, and he was killed. Here's his photograph.
And what did your family think of him?
Well, they never knew him. I kept the marriage a secret.
Why?
Because of the will. I hoped I'd be able to get my mother to change it.
But then your mother died.
Yes.
And she never knew of your marriage.
No.
So you decided to let sleeping dogs lie and keep Dark Spinney.
You're entitled to think that if you want to.
It's not a matter of what I think, it's a matter of what's true. How did Corinne like this?
She didn't know until a man called Donnelly told her.
Oh, Donnelly. How did he know about your marriage?
I don't know. But he must have found out somehow, because he met Corinne and told her and said that unless I paid him money, he'd make his knowledge public.
So you paid up?
Yes.
Now, why should Corinne stand for this? She was the rightful heiress. Dark Spinney was hers. All she had to do was to come out in the open. She'd no fear of blackmailers.
She begged me to let things stay as they were. She didn't want a family scandal. Of course, it was understood between us that I'd give her any money she needed.
And go on paying blackmail to Donnelly.
Yes.
Have you ever met this man?
No, I pay the money through Corinne. She meets him at the Mardine Club. He owns it.
I see. About this letter your stepfather received. Did you know it was written on Donnelly's typewriter?
Good heavens. Why would he do that?
That's an interesting question. How long have you been paying blackmail?
For a long time now, and lately his demands have been increasing.
That is a delightful habit of blackmailers, Miss Allardyce. I met your sister Corinne earlier this evening. She asked me to work for her. She gave me some money to find out who wrote the anonymous letter. A few days ago, you drew some money which you gave to Corinne to pay Donnelly, didn't you?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow you go to the bank and see if these numbers correspond with the notes you drew.
And supposing they do?
It means that Corinne's been carving you up and splitting the blackmail money with Donnelly. Charming girl. Did you know someone was trying to plant this murder on you?
Good heavens, no.
Is that yours?
Yes. Where did you find it?
Under your stepfather's body.
How on earth did it get there?
I don't know. That's why I removed it. The setup seemed too perfect.
But it's fantastic. What motive would I have?
The anonymous letter. You know, you wouldn't be the first beautiful murderess. And let's suppose for argument that you didn't murder him.
Somebody did. There's nobody can help me but you. Will you try and find out who did it? I want to trust you, Mr. Callaghan.
You've got to trust me. You've got to trust me whether you like it or not.
I suppose I have. I've got to trust somebody. Will you help me?
Why not? You know, Miss Allardyce, I'm a very expensive detective.
You needn't worry about money.
I wasn't thinking about money.
What then?
Just this. We'll consider that a payment on account. Now, what have you got, Windy? And make it snappy.
Well, Wendy, I got a lot on this guy Sharpen from RAF headquarters, and what I didn't get there, Metzler dug up. Hey, how about a drink, eh? I came all the way in from London.
Now, the drink can wait. Tell me about Sharpen.
Okay. Hey, this guy Sharpen sure is something. He's a smart, good-looking fella. and was a pro at some joint called the Rose Hill Dance Hall in Cape Town. He came over here from South Africa in 1938 and talked some old dame into financing him so he could learn how to fly, you see?
I see. So that's how he came to be in the RAF at the beginning of the war.
Right. So he goes off and joins a squadron. He gets wounded and gets his little finger shot off, but nothing serious. Then he goes back again and does some more flying. He gets shot down in Italy, and this time he gets smashed up, but good. He really gets it this time. Broke his nose, his jaw, his whole face. But he was lucky, because there was a good surgeon there in the prison camp who fixed him up all right. But listen to this one, Slim. Who do you think the guy was who was shot down with him? Who do you think the observer was?
I don't know. You tell me.
None other but our friend Lucien Donnelly from the Mardine.
So that's it. Windy, I believe I've got it. Have you?
Of course. When Sharpham was in that prison camp in Italy, he received a letter from Viola explaining that because she was married to him, she doesn't receive any money from the estate. Now, Sharpham tells this to Donnelly.
Right. So these two try and escape from the prison camp, and Sharpham gets killed, so Donnelly comes to England alone.
There you are.
When Donnelly got to England, he went to the RAF convalescent home at Hurstmanstow. Hurstmanstow? Well, Corinne Allardyce was a VAD there. That's where she met Donnelly.
Hey, what do you know about that?
When do you get Effie on the telephone? Give me a notebook.
Good morning, Mr. Callaghan.
Get your notebook, Effie.
Ready?
I get this. Rupert Ellingham Sharpham was a dance instructor at the Rose Hill Dance Hall in Cape Town. I get a call through to John Friquet in Cape Town. Remind him I did something for him once. Tell him to get a ripple on. Tell him to dig and get every fact on Sharpham. Where he came from, who he was, everything about him. Tell him I want this back by phone in 8 hours, and I don't mean maybe. You got that?
Yes, Mr. Callaghan.
Mr. Callaghan to see you, matron. He said he telephoned you earlier.
Oh, yes. Show him in, please, sister.
It's very kind of you to see me, matron. I won't take up much of your time. I'm a private detective.
Oh, how very exciting. Won't you sit down?
Thank you. I wonder if you can help me, matron.
I will if I can. What is it?
You remember Miss Corinne Allardyce? She used to work here during the latter part of the war.
Yes, she was a VAD. I was charge sister at the time, and I knew her very well. She was a rather beautiful girl with a very distinct personality.
Then perhaps you remember a man called Donnelly, Lucien Donnelly. He was an ex-RAF officer who came here for post-hospital treatment. I believe these two were rather fond of each other, weren't they?
Yes, we all thought they were rather in love and that we might even have an engagement in the hospital. Until a rather strange thing happened.
Oh? What was it?
Mr. Donnelly was arrested for being drunk in charge of a car. Corinne Allardyce was in the car with him, the only witness, so the police took a statement from her. Now, the next day, she went to see them again. What she told them, I don't know, but to everyone's surprise, they dropped the case.
Then what happened, matron?
Well, that seemed to break up their romance, and shortly afterwards, Mr. Donnelly left the hospital. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can tell you, Mr. Callaghan. I hope it's of some help to you.
You'll never know how much, matron. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Is the inspector in?
Yes, sir.
What can I do for you, sir?
Hello, Inspector. My name's Callaghan. I'm working with Gringle on the Dark Spinney case. He says about a couple of years ago there was a drunken charge case against a man called Lucien Donnelly. He wants details.
Oh, yes, I remember. I handled it. It didn't come to anything. No evidence.
Well, why not? You took a statement from Corinne Allardyce. She was in the car with him at the time.
Yes, but you can't use wife's evidence against her husband.
Oh, of course they were married, weren't they?
Yes, they were married in Brighton.
Were there any other witnesses, Inspector?
No, not a soul.
Thank you very much, Inspector.
Hello, call board. Give Inspector Gringle. Hello, Gringle.
You wouldn't know why I've come to see you, Slim?
No, I wouldn't, but you know I'm always glad to see you.
Good, but I don't think you're going to like this. I've had a talk with Salins. He's made a statement. Do you know what he says?
No, how should I know?
He says that when he found the body, the pistol was a good 7 feet from it. That the handkerchief in the breast pocket was folded, and that there was something white under the body, a piece of paper or perhaps a handkerchief. He's prepared to swear to this on oath. Now, none of these things appear in the police photographs. Somebody must have tampered with the evidence. I wonder who that could be.
It's extraordinary the things people will do, isn't it?
Yes, it's extraordinary the things people will do when there's a beautiful woman around.
So what?
When Salins came out of the summer house, he met you. You were just leaving. He told you the colonel had been shot. You sent him back to tell Miss Wimmering and then to phone the police. But you also told him to take his time about it. Well, he took his time about it. So much so that you had nearly 10 minutes.
Gringle, are you by any chance suggesting that I'd tamper with the evidence?
Oh, no, you couldn't do such a thing, could you?
Well, why would I do it?
Because your client, Miss Viola Allardyce, is a rich and beautiful woman. Now, Mr. When you first came down, did you know what the colonel wanted to speak to you about?
As a matter of fact, no.
Well, I'll tell you. He'd received an anonymous letter which worried him very much indeed. You wouldn't know what was in that letter, would you, Slim?
Now, how would I know? Do you?
Yes, I do.
Nice work. So you've been through the colonel's papers and found it?
If it was in the colonel's papers, we didn't find it. No, but somebody wanted me to know and sent me a copy. I'd like to have a look at it.
Good Lord. What do you know about that?
That doesn't make things look too good for your client, does it? The production of that letter by the colonel would have meant that she'd lost the estate. It would have meant that she could have been charged by her sister Corin with fraud, and it would have meant a public scandal. How do you like that, Slim?
I don't like it. I don't dislike it.
Now listen to me, Slim. I like you. I've known you a long time, and I've taken more from you than I've ever taken from any private dick. But as far as I'm concerned, now you've had it. I'm going to pinch you, Slim, and if I can make this stick, you know what it means.
All right, go ahead and make your pinch, Gringle. And by the time I'm through with you, you'll be sorry. It's Salin's word against mine. And in law, my word's as good as his. Mind you, I'm not saying you won't get away with it.
Oh, thank you very much.
Now listen, Gringle. I've got this thing in the bag, but I'm not going to talk whatever you do. I'll talk when I like and how I like. And if you'd like another charge to add to the list of offenses against me, what about withholding information? Because I'm telling you, I've got plenty. Now look, Gringle, give me a couple of days and I'll bring this job to you on a plate. And I'll do something else. I'll stop you making a fool of yourself. Because believe me, you're barking up the wrong tree.
I'm not barking up any tree. I'm going to let you do the barking. And it had better be good.
Come in.
There's a call for you from London.
Thank you. Hello.
Mr. Callaghan?
Hello, Effie. Well, has Freaky been through?
Yes, and how? Listen to this, Mr. Callaghan. Sharpham is wanted by the Cape Town Police and British Rhodesian Police and on 2 charges by the Peter Maritzburg Police. He was married early in 1938 to Ernestine Raslair in Cape Town. I have a photograph of their wedding group transmitted by wireless. He deserted her later that year. She's still alive and working on a farm in Hermanos. She's been trying to find Sharpham ever since he disappeared.
Are you sure this is our man, Effie?
Of course it's our man. Freaky said that Sharpham had a strawberry birthmark on his shoulder. If you look at the RAF reports that Nichols brought down, you'll find that your Sharpham, the man that married Viola Allardyce, has the same birthmark. They're one and the same man. Freaky says this is all he has up to date. He's been trying for more.
I'll call him and tell him not to worry, Effie. I've got all I want.
Very well. I suppose you wouldn't know when you'll be back. There's a lot of correspondence. Miss Van Dane's been through 2 or 3 times.
Has she? Well, I'm stuck here for a day or 2, Effie. Send her a telegram and say I'm looking forward to seeing her soon. And play everything along till I get back, Effie.
Very well. Good luck, Mr. Callaghan. Keep out of jail if you can.
Yes?
Bones on the telephone, Miss Corin.
Who?
Bones.
Oh. Hello?
Hello, Karin. I've got some information for you. Some rather interesting information.
Really? What is it?
I know who wrote that anonymous letter. I think you'd be very interested.
I see.
Don't you think that you and I ought to have a little talk?
Yes, why not, Slim? A nice, quiet talk, hmm?
Where?
Slim, do you like boats? I've got a speedboat lying in the harbor. Let's take it out. It's going to be a lovely night.
You're telling me?
I'll meet you outside the Two Friars at 10 o'clock. All right?
Right. I'll be there. Things are moving, Wendy. I'm going over to Dark Spinney. Get my car on, will you? Yep. Hello, what are you doing here? I was on my way to see you.
I had to come. I had to find out what was happening. Have you found out anything?
I've got some good news for you. Let's go in here. Shall we sit down?
Thank you. Good news will be wonderful. It'll be the first I've had for a long time.
Well, here it is. You're not Mrs. Sharpham, and you never were. He was married to Ernestine Rasler in Cape Town in 1938. He deserted her, and she's been looking for him ever since. So you see, you never broke the conditions of your mother's will, and you really are the rightful owner of Dark Spinney.
That is wonderful news. What a relief. Why, that changes
Now,
everything.
don't get too excited. We're not in the clear yet. Did you check those notes?
Yes, the numbers are identical.
So I was right. Corin and Donnelly are working together.
What am I going to do?
You're not going to do anything. I'll do everything that's necessary. I just told you this in case I have to leave in a hurry.
But you're not going away. I shouldn't like that.
So you don't hate me as much as you did?
I don't hate you at all. And now, after all this wonderful news, why, I want a chance to thank you.
I might give you the chance one day. Right now, I have a lot to do. How did you come here?
On the bus.
Well, I'm going to take you home. And then I'm going to do something that may clear all this up.
What are you going to do?
I'm going out in a boat. Quite a boat, isn't she? You handle her very well, too.
Thank you. She needs a bit of watching. Doesn't take much to capsize her. See if the fire's all right, will you? I've made some coffee. You're quite a sadist, aren't you?
Why?
Well, you managed to go right through that little trip without telling me what I wanted to know.
You mean who wrote the anonymous letter?
Yeah? Who was it?
Listen, Corin. I've been wise to you from the start.
Really? How exciting. Tell me all about it, my sweet.
Right from the beginning, I wanted to know why such a tough and grasping person as you are should let Viola, the mistress of Dark Spinney, when it was rightfully yours. You wanted her to remain in that position, but somebody else didn't. That was Donnelly. That's why he wrote the anonymous letter.
But he didn't succeed, did he? No one's seen the letter.
He still succeeded. Donnelly sent a duplicate of that letter to Gringle of Scotland Yard. You know why? Because he's sick of you. He's sick of Mrs. Corinne Donnelly.
So you know?
Of course I know. He married you at a registry office in Brighton. He told you about Viola's marriage to Sharpham, and between you, you cooked up the idea to blackmail her. You've had a nice time, the pair of you, haven't you? Why did you do it?
Why did I do it? Because I hate her. I've always hated the good, sweet, dear little thing.
You must dislike her almost as much as you dislike Donnelly.
Slim, if you knew how much I hated him, how I've always hated him. Yet when I'm with him, I love him. He's got something. It's like a snake wraps itself round you. You can't get away. When I'm with him, I'm fascinated. When I'm away from him, God knows how I hate him.
Then why didn't you kill him instead of Stenhurst?
Wouldn't you like to be able to prove that?
Maybe I can. I'll tell you what you did. 5 days ago, someone sent an anonymous letter about Viola. You knew what was in that letter, and you'd a pretty shrewd idea who'd sent it. So you took the Colonel's gun and you went to Donnelly for a showdown. Unfortunately, he wasn't there, so you had to come back. You came in through the little green gate while I was in the hall talking to your aunt. Your stepfather met you outside the summer house and said, "Come inside, I want to talk to you." He seemed very upset, so you followed him in. He told you he'd received a letter concerning Viola. You asked him to give it to you, and he refused, and said he was going to have the matter investigated. You knew you had to do something and do it quick. So you took the gun out of your bag and shot him. Then you threw the gun on the floor. You were wearing gloves, so you knew there'd be no fingerprints. You bent down over the body and took the letter from your stepfather and put it in the bag. And then you found that you had one of Viola's handkerchiefs, which gave you an idea. You put it down by the side of the body. You hoped the police would draw the obvious conclusion that your sister Viola was involved in the murder. You thought you'd been very clever, didn't you? Then you went out, got in your car and drove off, and came back to hear of your stepfather's death. Your alibi was that you'd been at the Mardine Club. Am I right?
Slim, I want you to do something for me. I mean this, it's a good thing, it's from the heart. I wonder if you'll do it.
What is it?
I want you to thrash Donnelly just once. I want you to go to the Mardine, go into that den of his and thrash him. Nothing ever hurts or affects him. He's so clever, nothing can touch him. There's only one thing he doesn't like. To be hurt physically. And you've nothing on him, Slim. He'll slide out of this. He'll see everybody else in jail, but he'll be all right. Will you do that for me, Slim?
Will you confess if I do it?
I'll confess if you'll do that. But you've got to beat him up. That must be done. And if you do that, Slim, you won't lose anything. Nor will Viola. You're keen on Viola, aren't you?
Why not?
You're just the kind of man who would be. Will you do it, Slim? Do that and I'll talk.
I'll try anything once. I'll be seeing you.
Get me Rodine, 5-2.
Hello? Hello, darling. Oh. Well, thanks for phoning. You clever little thing. Mr. Callaghan. Come in, sucker.
Well, it's all over bar the shouting, Donnelly.
So, Mr. Callaghan's discovered something. Mr. Callaghan knows all the answers. Clever, Mr. Callaghan.
You thought you knew all the answers, didn't you, Donnelly? You cheap little crook.
Crook? Cheap? Little? Is it against the law for a man to accept money from his wife's sister? You've got nothing on me.
There's some of the money your wife didn't give you. I suppose she's been double-crossing you. Nice pair.
Do you suppose you can start selling green car to me? She's crazy about me. So I've got what I want her. But I've always had her. How do you suppose I knew you were coming here?
Oh, so she telephoned you?
Well, look at the reception committee. Get Mr. Callaghan a drink. Not quite so conceited now, eh?
Surely we can talk this thing over, Donnelly.
Well, Slim, now you expect me to talk.
You don't have to talk, Mrs. Sharpham.
What do you mean, Mrs. Sharpham?
Don't you realize, you poor fool, that you and Viola married the same man?
What stuff are you trying to hand me out? Viola's husband was killed when they crashed.
That's what she thought. But your dear, sweet husband, Mr. Sharpham, had the laugh on you. It was Donnelly who was killed, and that left the gate wide open for Sharpham to take his identity.
All right. Now tell me why everybody didn't recognize him.
Because in the crash, his face was completely smashed up, and he had it rebuilt.
What an absurd story. Who do you think's going to believe that?
All right, I'll make it a little clearer for you. You ought to know that man of yours pretty well by now. You know, of course, that he has a strawberry birthmark on his left shoulder.
So? What does that prove?
It proves just this. If you look at the RAF medical report on Rupert Sharpham, you'll find that in addition to the birthmark, there's an even stronger piece of evidence. His little finger was shot off. He had to wear a false one to pass as Donnelly. Came off in the fight. Don't you realize Donnelly is Sharpham, the man who married your sister? He came to England as Donnelly. He married you to turn you into a blackmailer, a thief, and a cheat. He never loved you. He merely used you. He did more than that. He turned you into a murderess. A murderess, Corinne.
Get out of here! Hello. Get me Rodine 5-2. Is that you, darling? Darling. I was waiting for him when he came out. He was smashed and broken and bleeding, and I loved it. But we've got to be careful. He still knows too much. I want to talk to you. It's urgent. Come down right away. I'll be waiting for you. It's a lovely night. We can go for a ride on the sea, like we used to in the old days.
There. I think that'll be all right.
Thank you, Doctor. Good morning, Gringle. You come to make your pinch.
Morning, Slim. A few hours ago, I made up my mind to swear out a warrant against you. But I didn't.
How come?
Early this morning, a mile west of Shoreham, 2 bodies were washed ashore.
Identify them?
Yes, Lucian Donnelly and Corinne Allardyce. What do you know about that?
Murder and suicide. She was his wife. She took him out last night in the boat determined to kill him and herself.
Oh, so you know all about it, do you? Well, what about that? Found on her body.
What's that, the confession?
Oh, isn't there anything you don't know?
I know she killed Stenhurst. I got it out of her last night, and believe me, it took some doing.
Yes, so I see. So you get away with it once again, Wolf, so-and-so.
Not exactly.
We'll hold the inquest on the 3 of them in a couple of days' time. We'll want you as a witness, Slim, so stick around, will you?
Right. And by the way, Gringle, you might give the coroner the tip to mention the cooperation that Scotland Yard has received from Callaghan investigations, would you?
Of all the nerve.
Ah. Did you get a pair?
No. By the time I got to the head of the queue, they'd sold out.
Oh.
Mr. Callaghan in?
Yeah, he's got a customer in there. A lady customer.
Any phone calls?
Yeah, your friend Miss Van Dane was on. She wants the boss to go and spend the weekend with her.
The day he goes out with her, I'll go out with you.
Is that a promise?
Yes.
That's a promise.
Effie, I'm going away for the weekend. If anything important crops up, I'll be at Miss Van Dane's. Well, a promise is a promise, and that fixes you, kid. Tonight's the night. Go and get your best clothes on. I'll pick you up later. Thanks, boss. That's really fixed it. It's just part of the Callaghan service.
Good luck, Wendy.
Greetings. We hope you enjoy watching Hastings Mystery Theater and the film you just viewed. Randall Schaefer, his wife Judy and program manager Dan LeClaire combined efforts to bring these productions to you, free of charge and almost always without ads. We love seeing the comments you leave about our movies in the comments section under each video production. This means so much to us. Also, Randall appreciates receiving and responding to your many emails. Thank you, viewers, for liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss an upload. Blessings to you from Hastings, Michigan, USA.
In 1937, the world discovered Thorne Smith's topper and his vanishing girlfriend. Roared at them as ectoplasm did the darndest things. 2 years later, the screen rocked anew as Topper and his glamorous ghost played hide and seek in Topper Takes a Trip. And now, Topper's back with a new playmate in the gayest of all their adventures.
Get your cold feet off my back. You don't need all the covers, do you? Here I am, Tommy. Remember me, the girl that sat on your lap?
Oh, yes, but this is hardly the place. My wife.
I'll go, but every hair in my coat is standing on end.
Now cut out the stalling. Who killed Gail Richards? Pick him out.
In the first place, the girl they wanted to kill was Miss Carrington.
Well, never mind who they wanted to kill. Who done it?
I hate to go up those stairs. Would you mind coming up with me?
Upstairs? With you?
Mm-hmm.
Now?
Yes.
I better come back in the morning. Please.
I will not be quiet. I'm so nervous I could scream. In fact, I think I will. Oh, that's fun, isn't it? Come on, let's do it together. Edward.
Yes, ma'am.
What in the world is wrong with you?
It ain't me, it's them things.
Things?
Doors closing by themselves. People talking to nothing and getting answers. I'm going back.
Back where?
To Mr. Benny. Ain't nothing like this ever happened there.